Chapter 3. Threats. Quote, "Men are ready to change government when they think they can improve their own condition." Niccolò Machiavelli. Well, we have already seen the foolishness of Enrique Rivera in trusting to enter such a complicated and dysfunctional relationship. Moreover, the new dynamics of the pandemic have spurred relationships into a new, unfamiliar terrain, virtual, called social media. It comes with many advantages due to its convenience, but at the same time, it poses new threats because it makes a person weaker in the face of real-life relationships. Therefore, it is crucial to be able to know or understand better the young and beautiful Nicole Vigne, who was born into an aristocratic family in northern Italy with Judeo-French origins, among other recognitions for the lineage of European nobility. She is a girl who has never experienced a lack of resources, and much less has to struggle to earn her daily bread. This means that fate or God's blessing provided her with earthly fortune in exchange for other things. Without dealing with any economic problems, she also does not understand the lack of these resources in other people because she has never experienced it, and she is not interested in understanding. Instead, she only simulates a false compassion. According to what little Nicole shared with Enrique, since she was a child, her father, Joris Vigne, was a businessman with many interests in Africa, among other continents. He abandoned his wife, Giselle Betancourt de Vigne, and young Nicole to closely follow his business activities on the African continent, which offers a prosperous range of integrated assets in his parallel NGO. As a result, this creates a very strong crisis in the family because the mother is a narcissist and demands attention at all costs from her husband, Joris, to the point that Giselle, the mother, attempted suicide with a cocktail of pills, neglecting her baby when Nicole was only 3 years old. All of this simply because she wanted to have the spotlight on her and no longer had the absolute attention of her husband or father without handcuffs or rings. Fortunately, Giselle, the mother, was found in time thanks to the cries of the little girl who was crawling alone and abandoned in the house while the mother was still unconscious and in a coma for over 8 hours due to the severity of the situation. This influenced the decision of her father, Joris, considering the psychological and emotional condition of the mother, who was unstable and unable to be trusted with the judgment of a mentally mature adult. Giselle remained frozen with the mental maturity of a 12-year-old, like much of the European population since the First World War. As a result, baby Nicole had to stay in Italy with her grandparents and many other strangers, domestic workers, who passed through her home only for a good pay. They provided her with company until she grew up with them at the age of 17. Consequently, lacking a real family model, due to absent parents as Joris and ignorant as Giselle, and observing other kids with a different life normality, created an emotional void for her healthy growth. This void was treated or cushioned with an enormous cotton bandage in an attempt to cover it up with all the material desires she asked for. It was like having Aladdin's lamp with unlimited wishes, an essential element in welcoming her into the narcissist club. Since Joris, the father, was only present from a distance, it made her believe that this was sufficient for her childish development. Here, the essential ingredients for a new generation of covert narcissism are formed. Life never goes the way they thought, and as a result, plumph, everything collapses like a house of cards. They experience many moments of sadness and depression, expressing themselves with an inflammatory manner in their discussions, judging others with their passive-aggressive manipulations to cover their shortcomings. They believe that nothing they want can happen, and they deserve more from life without putting in the effort. The vulnerable and evolved version of the grand family of narcissists, enthusiastic about money, luxury, fashion, and physical perfectionism, for example, everything that provides them with high social status. They have an insatiable quest for external validation as it nourishes their internal insecurities, ego, and desired power. Therefore, they are highly sadistic, with fewer charismatic social skills and more resentment towards anything that displeases them. It's important to note their love for drama. The truth is that narcissists don't know how to love, as they lack self-acceptance and self-love. Additionally, a narcissist who doesn't confront their emotional confusion cannot be changed. They also won't feel responsible for their mistakes, regardless of the consequences. Casting themselves as victims in need of a savior who leads them into the light, freeing the princess chained by the dragon in the castle, and calling on their empathetic knight for help. This is a fairy tale that goes beyond mythology or biblical narrative because it repeats from cycles to cycles, from generation to generation. She creates the necessary scenarios to feed on new energy in their narcissistic engine. The naive supplier, Enrique, justifies her every time she shows a new red flag, lying, betraying, or passively abusing, all because he wants to save her. In the end, he will only waste his fragile time, money, and emotional energy, receiving passive-aggressive praise and defamatory campaigns that lead to social isolation, potentially fatal, or creating a trauma bond, and not the cinematic kind. Quote, "An eye for an eye makes the world blind." Mahatma Gandhi. Because her parental models lacked empathy, were prone to grandiosity, incapable of handling life's frustrations or disappointments, and exhibited a combination of arrogance and egocentricity. This leads her to an insatiable quest for validation to cover her insecurities. So much so that she portrays herself as the victim in every relationship, regardless of the dynamics. This type of person focuses their attention more on how they are perceived or loved through the emulation of external desires and parameters, mirroring, than on the real person they are internally. And this is what she has known how to do since her childhood. So why change if it has brought her more than 30 years of wonderful success? As the saying goes, you don't change what works well. Despite displaying awkward and anxious behavior in social situations, she excels in the world of high fashion and luxury, haute couture. Nicole is excellently integrated into high society, maintaining optimal relationships with many celebrities in the fashion, art, music, sports, and business realms. Look at me, how great I am, how grandiose. She always presents herself in her form of unhealthy presumption. However, she carries an absurd existential void. She was the best at playing the piano, or at least that's how it had to be in the fine arts school in Milan. Forced to satisfy the pride of her admirable parents from a distance because they had more important missions than maintaining a healthy relationship with their children. However, after 8 years, she left the academy. Now she plays the piano only to reminisce about La Belle Époque or to charm her admirers. Nicole also loves playing tennis. Yet, if she doesn't want to remember or doesn't want to apply the first rule of this sport, which is to give, to continually receive, the exchange of love that plays out in all social relationships of any kind in this world. Otherwise, the game cannot even begin and will end instantly. She begins to play on her social media accounts on Vinstagram with the so-called Mitfreude by Friedrich Nietzsche. In other words, the illusion of reflecting other people's successful moments as if they were her own. She does this with her favorites, champions, in the tennis field, as well as in other sports, artists of all kinds. Singers, actors, actresses, designers in general, in soccer, l'Intero Milan, and with her acquaintances and colleagues at work. With these tools shared on social media, there is an increase in false grandiosity, allowing the attention of others, affectionately called simp, or dumb as an ass fools, to inflate her ego. These same social networks allow her to spread this narcissistic grandiosity virus, as reviewed in The Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene. So, when Nicole learns that Enrique has successfully completed his aircraft certification service, she momentarily abandons her other suppliers to focus on him and attract him back into her networks. This man has an impact on the world, charismatic and intelligent, so I can't let him slip away from my hands. She thinks meticulously when in her delirious state of female hypergamy, and she smokes anxiously, always her ultra-thin light cigarettes full of tar and other harmful substances, along with her coffee full of white synthetic and refined sugar. Quote, "Do not love lovers half-heartedly. Don't entertain half-friends. Do not indulge in the works of the half-talented. Don't live half-alive, and don't die half-dead." Khalil Gibran. Nicole then orders another one of her strategies. Using hundreds of fake accounts and more, she sends her servers to manipulate and influence Enrique both online and offline. She did many things, Sorry, she doesn't do anything herself. She has enough money and power to command others. She is like the metamorphic representation of an old religious institution or financial institute that is too big to fail. In the same way, it is impossible to oppose her, let alone unthinkable to go bankrupt, and this could never happen to her, since the same suppliers make her live blissfully like a saint in the heavens. She orders, right on the side wall of the flamenco cave. Yes, there, between Salzgasse and Eisenmarkt, on Tipsgasse, exactly. He always walks down that little street. So, put the following words with a sign of Hermeticism reminiscent of the Emerald Tablet, Tabula Smaragdina. As above, hashtag, fuck the industry. So below, hashtag, live the lifestyle. Sublime. How creative this girl is. Enrique sees it and acknowledges Nicole's high imagination, but is uninterested in what is being attempted against him. If Enrique were to search for the hashtags on Vinstagram, he was going to enter headlong into what we now know as the simulation hypothesis, to be psychologically bombarded until his mind melted and his emotional stability weakened, because Nicole wanted him to be with her, only with her. But on her terms, meaning to live and breathe for her, to forget about his passions, ambitions, and life plans, simply to work for her, like someone dependent on alcohol is for a drink, like her employee, or better yet, like her slave. All to have less independence as a man. But he pays no attention, doesn't accept any agreement, since Enrique does not take orders from unstable people. Moreover, he was too busy with his projects and improving his German, which was simply catastrophe. All he wanted was to get to know her, to uncover the true person hiding behind the thousands of masks of Diablos Cojuelos. And he couldn't, not because he didn't know who was in front of him, but because she was afraid to reveal her true intentions. So, he accepted her decision in peace. Sooner or later, she would surrender to him. The only one who truly wanted to love and protect her as a life partner, and he never desired to punish or destroy her. Returning to understanding what she offered, unlike the other love relationships Enrique had, she had the ability to grab attention, waiting with delicate seduction techniques like a surgical doctor, and the illusion of high compatibility that led you to believe that you were made for each other. And this is like paradise on earth. She lies and does everything necessary to make you believe that you are the ideal match for her. Because narcissists adore the beginning of each relationship, and in that lapse of time, they investigate you, invest their time, and are very creative in generating a good first impression to be rewarded later, obtaining a new supplier, treated as an object, like the latest model smartphone, or maybe this last one is treated much better when they hand over an old phone without internet, without connection, and then they realize the added value that this Adams's man had from the start, to give her undivided attention and to protect her from the surrogate in case of a radical frustration. Nicole has a very authentic and particular modus operandi. She doesn't want her lovers or friends, suppliers, to form a relationship based on reciprocal love, with genuine connection from both sides while being free. Instead, Nicole wants to create a one-way dependence and need for her, not the other way around, or, better yet, from both sides. And the moment she senses a slight feeling that this man might like her and might make her lose control, idest, go through the natural and initial phase of every human relationship. She escapes like a war fugitive and disappears immediately because she has a latent fear of the beauty of being in love, because this has turned into a game of sentimental and emotional power and nothing more. So, it would be a loss of control if she shows her true feelings. And this is the truth of the absurdity we are living in today, in this world. In this society, it is better to have those suitors who you don't like, but who are at your service, in servitude, and consequently, you can control them easily, the so-called eggs in a shirt. These are the ones she leaves tied up with hospital shirts and stupefying medicines. Quote, "That day, I suddenly realized that I was no longer driving it conscious, and I was in a different dimension. For me, the circuit for me was a tunnel, which I was just going, and I realized it was well beyond my conscious understanding. Ayrton Senna. Because only she is the star in the universe, the center of the world, the Moon Queen, Louis XIV's female version, L'état c'est à moi, where only dead meteor rocks, without their own light, revolve around her, and all the planets or stars in her galaxy orbit. The Marie Antoinette of the situation, the hedonist's mother, par excellence. So, in one of the last meetings scheduled in the spring of 2021, to meet at La Speed 1 Gran Turismo race in Monaco on May 23rd, Nicole never showed up, tormenting Enrique for the last time, with great pain in his heart, because he drove or raced in a sports car for more than 24 hours in total without stopping. This was a hellish round trip, because commercial flights were not available at that time due to the pandemic, and there were many restrictions for air travel. This created problems everywhere, getting fines from right to left in 3 different countries just to find her. But as they say in Italy, oltre il danno pure la beffa. While he was driving on the roads in the Italian territory, in Vaillant, heading towards Cortina d'Ampezzo, a white car with a young driver accompanied by his girl appeared, giving him a very aggressive look through the window, while the girl also laughed at him. In other words, provoking him, or inviting him to race more than 3 times with their cheerful accelerator, and this hardcore pilot accelerated powerfully next to him, because Enrique was also rushing, as he was late to arrive in time in Monaco, and not because of them. Although Enrique doesn't know the avenues and roads he will travel, he continues forward. So, he is surprised to race on a route full of dark tunnels, very narrow roads, and many parts under construction. Also, the bridges are very high, behind the mountains with deep precipices that can easily make him lose focus or balance in the lane, not to mention that it was his first time in that area. He also realizes that any small mistake could lead him to be plunged into the abyss. But he is not afraid and accelerates the car. I have to race to get to Monaco on time, so it's better not to do it alone and have a little fun with these insensitive guys since I'm getting sleepy, Enrique thinks, tightens the steering wheel immediately, and accelerates at will. Thus begins an illegal, out-of-place race full of speed and adrenaline. But when Enrique noticed that the unknown driver not only wanted to race for fun to feel a bit of excitement, but rather to provoke a car accident, he decided immediately to accelerate quickly to change route until he lost him because he hadn't slept all night and couldn't afford such an error on the Italian roads that would prevent him from reaching his main goal: to get to the Speed 1 Gran Turismo race in Monaco, 2021. Later on, already leaving Cortina d'Ampezzo and going down that hill. He was getting closer and closer, and observed from a distance the Principality of Monaco with a beautiful sun and a shining blue sea. Ah, at least I will enjoy the race, because it is one of the most exciting tracks in the world for Speed 1. And this reminds me so much of the interview with the professional pilot and legend Ayrton Senna, who mastered the Monaco track very well. In fact, he holds a record of 6 victories in the races at this unique place, said Enrique happily to have arrived in time to see the race he had dreamed of so much. And entering in the Monaco circuit, while Enrique looks for his seat, he is looked at by 2 beautiful French girls. Hey! One quickly and furtively touches the other on the arm. Qui est-ce? The other asks. Je ne sais pas, mais c'est un beau gosse, the first one responds. But Enrique, as always, plays the fool, the one who doesn't understand French either. And he keeps walking until he finds his seat, and after a few minutes, the ninja, Raja Nangolan, arrives with a group of friends, and they sit in front of him and around him. That day, Lewis Hamilton, Mercedes, froze in P7, and the Dutchman Max Verstappen, Red Bull, took the first podium P1 by winning the race, and not only that, but he also took the championship home in that same year. And by the way, speaking of enjoyment, one of the things that Nicole and Enrique enjoyed the most was that unrestrained attraction, which despite the distance and detours, had never been consummated, so they continued to desire each other like fire and wood. She is always eager, wet, and ready for him, like a geisha ready to please her lover, to ignite and excite her Enrique. Quote, Ne partez pas, je vous en supplie, restez longtemps. Ça me sauvera peut-être pas, non. Mais faire sans vous, je sais pas comment. Aimez-moi comme on aime un ami qui s'en va pour toujours. Je veux qu'on m'aime parce que moi, je sais pas bien aimer mes contours. Voilà, Barbara Pravi. And so, automatically, they had those phone calls of carnal, deep, and erotic desire, because after she incited him with her sensual photos, with a wide range of varieties she had in her intimate for bondage, BDSM, wardrobe, it was also complemented by that fantastic vocal imagination. Her willingness always made a call from her bed with authentic and sensual outfits, not forgetting her seductive sense that attracted in the night, and that only a woman with a strong libido could have. That's why they desired each other more every day. Even when she was in the bathroom, she touched herself and described in detail all her fantasies. Both were tempted to almost touch each other over their clothes, but they had to stop because many times they were in the middle of their daily activities and tasks. And they imagined that day when they could see each other and go to the beautiful beaches of the islands and atolls of French Polynesia, where she was touched exuberantly by the sun and brushed with the cool wind all over her body and limbs. Just as when winter was about to arrive, and everything was organized to spend Christmas together in St. Moritz, with an Irish chocolate that raises the body temperature to over 43 degrees Celsius, or maybe a summer in Capri with a limoncello sorbet to provide that vitamin that satisfies thirst in the midst of the high temperatures of passion, often cynically confused with the word love, but is a covered heartbreak that doesn't let you love, much less see things as they are, and also not say sorry. But love is still there, despite everything. It is inside the human heart because humans cannot live without it. She says excitedly, I desire you, and I want to have you rolling all night over my body until the sun rises again, the new day. I can't wait, Nicole. I can't wait to make it real like Tantra, not ideal, Enrique replies, very passionate and eager. Do you know Tantra? And what is ideal? Nicole asks, ignorant of the subject and European after all. Morality is ideal but not real. It is used to control the sheep clumsy and blind by Jews, Muslims, and Orthodox Christians, among many other varieties of pseudo-religions that want to deny sex with mental limits, which is the basis of life and procreation in this world, in this pro-life paradise. Instead, in Tantra, there is no moral censorship. Only consciousness and action that does not look at time eliminates the ego and gives union to the individual, making you more human. He explains to her in a relaxed manner. Aha! So, we unite in total fusion. She laughs and gets excited. Ha ha ha. Tantra takes you beyond sex. It is the sex-ligion of procreation and giving life through passion guided by love. To a higher orgasm, a cosmic orgasm. Moreover, it's just the beginning, not the end, Enrique responds to her. And what is the end? Because I like wild and unrestrained sex but getting pregnant. I don't know, she asks, confused. It depends on what are you looking for, he tells her directly. Explain yourself. She questions him again with insatiable curiosity. You have other options. You can always use a dead metal or black rubber dildo that runs automatically at a speed of 7px. But it's always a cold XAI robot that only gives you hallucinations and none of what true human passion is. Moreover, lithium batteries are defective and can explode inside your flower at any time. They are dangerous. Enrique warns Nicole of the dangers that men and women in this world face today due to their sexual selfishness and lack of love. Ay, cazzo, but that's ugly, Nicole says, concerned. Is it that you are saturated with morality or the law of religion? He questions her. Enrique, explain yourself. She asks desperately, because she had never thought about that. Despite she is living in an implicitly cultural religion. What are you looking for? The peak of excitement or the deep valley of relaxation, he asks her. Good question. Ha ha ha, she responds while enjoying that dirty conversation. Then I'll explain better about this subtle death when we see each other. Ciao, Bella. Enrique bids farewell to his beautiful Nicole, who is already wet at the thought of having him inside, just as she has done with so many others, simulating to be a Maria, an Aquagetta. Death, do you want to kill me? Look, I'm a warrior hard to take to Valhalla, ha, Nicole replies, and continues laughing, not wanting to hang up the phone. Well, Socrates couldn't wait to die completely after experiencing the subtle death with his beloved. Kisses. Tschüss. Enrique ends the call abruptly. Quote, when you complain, you become a victim. Leave the situation, change the situation, or accept it. Everything else is madness. Eckhart Tolle. And that's how their phone calls were, like that time she called him in the middle of a dinner at a fashion event. She locks herself in a room of this huge palace and starts playing a short but sensual melody on the piano, a solo concert online as if it were live. They both feel it. She stops playing the piano. Her breathing stops, starting to get fatigued. In her sighs and moans, her words get cut off in each sentence, while showing him, with an image, her pink chiffon dress that an Italian designer had prepared for her and that she had to specially endorse that night for the gala. This fabric is itching me, and I have to touch myself, Enrique. Guess where? I'm without underwear, she pleaded. Come, go under my dress. I'm just waiting for you. Not to mention the countless times she dreamed of him at night and woke up all bathed, thinking only about what it would be like to consummate that libertine desire in him. Enrique, I dreamed of you again, and every time I think of you, I get wet, even in the middle of the day when I'm busy with work, in my meetings, without thinking when I look at your photos. I have to change my underwear because my intimate part got dirty with that liquid drool, and my panties got stained again. I want to see you now, and when you're inside me, you won't want to leave ever, she told her beloved Enrique. Well, Enrique doesn't say anything, and patiently waited for the next date, set in the summer of 2021 in Rome. In that August, they were supposed to meet on a Friday at a restaurant, but Nicole decided to change it because she preferred Saturday and another place. And he had had enough already. That was the last straw that broke the camel's back, so he didn't show up the next day for the new date, called the restaurant, and canceled the reservation because it was enough for him. He chose to go to dinner with his ex and spend the whole night with Emma, who made him have a lot of fun, more than he expected. With Emma, Enrique had a beautiful night, and they remembered so many good moments shared with the longing to take a step back to resolve past issues and return again. But Enrique doesn't want to go back because he knows that it brings the cancellation of his commitments with the new order, and he won't please anyone to leave his goals halfway. But then when he returned from his trip to Italy and arrived home in Cologne during the morning, he found the tires of his bicycle on the ground. Who could it have been, Enrique wonders, and why? It was just a canceled dinner for two. Strong threats, Enrique thinks, when all he wants is to love and be loved for what he is, a human being, full of flaws and virtues, but happy because in the eyes of Buddha and the Lord of the Spirits, he is perfectly imperfect, as the Lord himself had been waiting and searching for him for thousands of years. At the same time, fines from different countries began to arrive due to the trip to Monaco and the high speeding, especially from the Italian canton and Basel in Switzerland. What a misfortune. So, Nicole is very upset and begins to intensify her stalking and annoyance. She had already sent paparazzi several times with professional cameras to get new photos of Enrique since he has no social media, and she was completely cut off from his life. But she knows everything, like the top student in the class. She knows he plays basketball among other sports, where, when, and with whom. There, she sends someone to observe the time he arrives at the gym to exercise or goes swimming in the pool. In short, everything. But she doesn't tell him anything about her past life. She hides that she had 2 children with different men and has a bisexual relationship with her so-called best friend. This is another element of a toxic relationship that makes you question, to whom can you trust today? Moreover, few people introduce themselves to explain why they are there, watching him, even when he goes to the sauna, Turkish bath, or showers with very cold water. So, his secret friends follow him and scrutinize him always to know and learn more, because they want to know why he has made it this far, from scratch to the next level, playing with the big guys, and they are watching because he doesn't give up. His mindset is flexible. The more you push him, the stronger he becomes. He is tired, and yet the Spirit calls him every morning, and he answers the call because this is his arena, and he can face all the difficulties it brings. So, get up. We have work to do because life is tough, and many will betray or abandon you, but you have a mission to fulfill. So, ignite your lion heart. Become the best diamond you want to shine, Enrique tells himself each time. Moreover, I never feel alone because they keep me company always, Enrique reminds himself. Then, Nicole sends another emissary to Vom Metzger in Troydorf, one of the best places to eat with family, as a couple, or visit alone because they have excellent staff, just like in other restaurants that serve with attention and make you feel at home while enjoying a good cut of meat, to talk to Enrique, because she hadn't heard from him in a long time. But this man presents himself in the code of the southern Italian city, because she sends ambassadors to the bars where he works, even outside of Cologne. In fact, during all this time, only one of them showed up. He sat at the bar and ordered a drink. "Hello, Nicole sends me," says the emissary. No. In reality, he spoke to him in code about how beautiful that southern Italian city is, where he comes from, like a parable referring to her real last name as a code of identity. I have to breathe on your back all night, Enrique meditates and understands. What a day I had, says Alessandro, the emissary, because he was there for the food fair held every year in Cologne. It was easier for him if he wanted to know something about him, because he could respond without wasting time, because he had to work and had no desire to talk to a stranger, even less with a nuncio. But for Nicole, it's not fun unless she can annoy, bother, or test someone's patience, and that's her way of behaving, or else all this drama wouldn't have been created from the beginning. So she makes a confirmation phone call. Yes, yes, I just arrived at this place you recommended. And a very polite and professional man is serving me. Besides, he speaks Italian very well, and I don't have to speak German at all, says Alessandro speaking on the phone, while intentionally fixing his gaze on Enrique because he has him in front of him. Hello, my name is Alessandro. I am Italian, and I come from Palermo. It's a very beautiful city. Do you know it? The emissary introduced himself. Instead, Enrique smiles and responds, Yes, of course, I was on vacation there 2 years ago. Quote, Life is not about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself. So, you write your sorrows in the sand. Meanwhile, you write your good times in stone. Bernard Shaw. Ah, that's great. Then you know well what I'm talking about. Look, I'm here for a food fair. I've been here a few days, and I'd like to know, how are German girls? What is special about them? What do you like? Alessandro asks. Well, German girls are simple and sincere, Enrique gently replied. What Enrique didn't tell Alessandro is that here in Germany, he encountered some of the green flags of a woman, a friendship, or a community. Because there are not perfect people or couples, but you can work in those few red flags too if you want to be still together. And distilling the first point better. A. Recognize when a woman is truly committed to a relationship. B. When she is happy with the commitment, she carries with you. C. She listens to you carefully. D. She has a high degree of self-awareness and reflection to excuse herself when she is wrong. E. She shows empathy. F. She's willing to be a vulnerable woman. G. She will not get in the way of your personal life. On the contrary, she will be there to help you when you need it and when you ask for it. And what does a man have to do to leave the child of the past behind? He has to pass the test that life, that girl you like, or society itself will do to you. This mean, A. Thought beyond himself. B. You have to understand that obstacles are the way, although we mostly want the easiest option in the short term, because discipline and responsibility weigh on us, but in the long term you will see the results. C. Change the victim mentality and have the courage to face your fears. D. Be resilient and become a wild predator. E. Don't follow the masses and follow your heart, completing your schedule each day, from making your bed to getting ready for the next day. F. Learn to say no and don't please everyone. G. Be honest with yourself and with others. H. Talk to everyone. I. Take care of yourself, mentality and physically always. J. Play the best real-life video game. K. Take responsibility for your life and prepare your high standards that you want to pursue, as well as Miyamoto Musashi and his Dokodo. Therefore, all of this helps us understand that each couple has to accept each other with their past, fears, emotions, and expectations. However, one should not take everything personally. Go out more often to get to know each other better, because life is more gracious in reality than in the virtual fiction of all those applications built as painkillers. In the same way, you have to build the true intention to improve, and your partner will see you with a different level of respect. So, don't fall into the trap of societal programming, which is based on status or money, and for this reason, everyone pretends to be what they are, not just to be praised on these networks like PicPoc, Vinstagram, or Metabook. Those things you have to obtain to feel fulfilled, the partner, the house, the car, etc. Or otherwise, you feel out of place. Because there you find the woman seeking the man with the high salary, while the man seeks a beautiful, less intelligent, and submissive woman. Therefore, each person is pretending their personality. but you don't need confirmation from society. So, don't ask society for permission, and prepare excellently well to take what you want." When Nicole heard this, she was immediately offended and called Alessandro to launch a psychological dark NLP attack. "What are you doing in Germany?" Alessandro asked. "Working and studying," Enrique confesses. "Then, you're a gigolo," Alessandro responded, laughing. Enrique did not respond. Instead, he took a short pause and talked about the work he had and what he is now dedicating himself to in new technologies, such as research and innovation and other things. "How interesting," Alessandro expressed to Enrique. "That's mean. Interesting in his way of handling things, controlling himself, and letting the energy flow tactfully." So, the photos, videos, and live sessions from Alessandro to Nicole began, feeding her curiosity, until he finished dinner and had some beers and cocktails. He had a pleasant night because Enrique treated him as a guest and stepped out of the scheme for which he was there, that is, for a mission from Nicole. In the end, Alessandro greeted Enrique with respect and left him a message to lead a good life, with a final farewell from Nicole. "Always stay with that smile, cheerful and sincere. Keep thinking openly, develop yourself, and share only with quality people," Alessandro concluded. Because obviously, Nicole had studied his way of thinking and knew the latest books he read and studied. Final farewell. Something I don't believe at all, Enrique thought, as Nicole continues to observe him with all available means in this matrix. And so far, he has received all kinds of flying monkeys from the Gestapo, amusingly described. Like when some men walk by the bar while Enrique is making a cocktail. "Pendejo," they say indirectly, one of these two men, without looking at him, and loudly, because they knew Enrique was the only one who understands Spanish in that place. I loved it. Enrique enjoys himself and thinks about how beautiful the form of NLP or natural language processing is in the dark manipulation secretly used by these friends of the Gestapo, who do everything possible to make him suffer or feel bad, but he quickly recovers after each setback. Because the little demon won't touch you, as he's afraid of the consequences, but he'll do everything possible to stoke hatred or indirect instigations against you. Another form was when a couple with physical characteristics similar to Nicole and Enrique sat down to simulate how this relationship could be, among many others. Because Nicole has a creativity to feed her narcissistic personality. If she uses that energy and economic resources for good intentions, the world would undoubtedly be a better place. But she will never be interested in anyone other than herself or the two creatures that are part of her brood, her children whom she hides from the world as if they were Hitler and Mussolini after World War II, because for her, the religious mantis, and every time she mates with a new male current partner, she absorbs all his energy, devours his body until she tears off his head and drives him to total madness, thus being able to transmit her genes to her anti-prole. And these sacrificed males are many, they are hundreds and hundreds. But she never loses her hunger, and she also has no preference for gender. Female or male is the same. It's enough to obtain the energy from the first chakra, which is collagen for her, and immediately absorb the essential substances from the bone marrow for her offspring, or for the representation of her old religious institution. Although, in the end, she acts stupid and borderline. Just as she doesn't take her words seriously. So don't get frustrated because she will have her own version of reality, and she will throw you into the dumpster the moment you don't provide her with what she wants. At the same time, an empathetic person does not find affinity with a narcissistic person. Another night in Troydorf, he received 4 Italian guests in the restaurant, with tactical behaviors from Lobra. Enrique found it very strange because he didn't believe he was capable of reaching that level. Until they stopped at the bar to study it better. Obviously, they delighted in seeing the decorative display of all the bottles at the bar. And his colleague, a waiter from the restaurant, pointed to him. Sergio quickly comes over after finishing his shift to talk to Enrique, while carrying some dirty glasses and empty bottles to the bar, and he says, "Did you see 4 men dressed in black sitting at that table tonight?" "Yes, I saw them." "Why?" Enrique responds and questions while continuing to organize and clean the bar. "You know, these men were Italians. They emanated bad vibes all night, and incredibly, they didn't even leave €1 as a tip." Sergio complains to Enrique about the bad table he had. "Well, what did you expect? That they came to spend money? Instead, how are your projects going?" Enrique responds and asks another question. "Well, now I've finished my preparation, the business plan, and now I'm considering working with some partners, although I'm very unsure about 2 of them. Because one has the financial resources for the initial investment, but is always at parties, meaning he's not focused on the business and is always looking for a new Maria, even though he has a stable relationship with a beautiful girl for more than 3 years. Sergio explains his hesitations to start this business with little confidence in this person. "And who is the second partner?" Enrique asks Sergio. "His girlfriend, who is very beautiful, intelligent, and capable, but I don't see her with a genuine interest in the proposal, as everything is excused by her boyfriend. What do you think?" Sergio tells Enrique about the complexity of the situation. "I don't know what to tell you because I don't know these people, but I can tell you some guidelines I personally take to start a relationship or a business with someone. First, I don't do any damn business with an impious or fake person, because people who believe in something higher, supernatural, and unfathomable by limited human intelligence lead them to have respect for their invisibly inner master, unlike fear. Likewise, this is the only thing that leads them to have a certain behavior and can stop the distorted psychology of the human being from doing wrong even when not seen. Second, I don't trust in doing any kind of business with a man who cheats on his girlfriend or wife. Imagine that she shares the same bed, body, and being. Think then about what he can do to you when you just turn your back," Enrique points out to Sergio. "Oh, I hadn't taken that into consideration, but I understand you. And what do you think about the sexy and beautiful girlfriend?" Sergio responds and asks, "My personal experiences have taught me to avoid any kind of business or work with very beautiful or sexy women. Attention! Not out of fear, but because in 90% of cases they don't do the job properly, they are not diligent. Moreover, they show a certain lack of interest in the seriousness of the commitment taken, making it seem like they are doing you a favor with their beautiful presence. In addition to this, they use the excuse that they are beautiful and/or fragile, and as a consequence, they use this tool to guide the situation to their advantage or have an affair or relationship to the detriment of the work to be done. Look at history. Leaders, kings, emperors, and great nations have fallen into this same trap." Enrique finishes explaining to Sergio, "You're right. It's better to avoid and follow my intuition, the 4th part of my brain, which had already given me a warning. See you tomorrow, Enrique." Sergio thanks him, and they say goodbye because it was very late. The next night, when Enrique leaves the restaurant and walks towards the train station to go back to Cologne, a sports car approaches him at high speed because he was already ready to jump. Luckily, a civilian appears and is walking very close to Enrique, and this helps him because they reduce speed in his vicinity, already arriving at the curve of the Troydorf station. A few seconds later, a large police van follows. It was like watching a game of cops and robbers, which is always a power game, just like cat and mouse or other antagonistic animals. "Classic," Enrique says, surprised, because he still doesn't understand what they're looking for. Why so much evil, pettiness, and selfishness, when there is abundance for everyone on this earth? It's like the story of Cain and Abel, where the brother desires to kill his own blood. Abel, because he sees his brother blessed by the Lord, Enrique reflects on the madness of the human being. But here, a new door of the metaverse opens, and he enters. Through the thousands of universes, we have, since the times of Dvaraka, when Krishna is surprised by the great visit of the Creator, Brahma, and he responds, "Which Brahma?" Because even then, the different dimensions and relativity that play in the universe were known due to its complexity. As a result, a new actor enters to the carousel scene, Nicole's father, this successful man with an exciting career ahead in the old religious institution, registered as an international NGO, among other interesting global market businesses. And after evaluating among all his sons and daughters who fight incessantly and kill each other for the coveted position of power, that is, being the invisible alter ego of this millennium-old covert foundation. Therefore, the father chooses carefully, after so many tests, light and dark, and opts for his favorite daughter, Nicole, who from an early age showed the unavoidable demands for a ruthless battle of love and hatred in this enormous organization that dictates the fate of this world for so many centuries. That's why the father convinces her to be the new Ave Queen of this old religious institution, and she believes it and lives it joyfully completely, only knowing of all the advantages that this representative celestial burden carries. What she doesn't know yet is that there are no free meals in this world, and the price she will have to pay for this position will be very high because she will be flesh to be delivered to the ancient demons of that institution, and thus give an open path to her father, who needs the sacrifice of his own blood to obtain and win the coveted and final position of his pro-tempore career, to transcendental in this majestic, ancient palace. In fact, the father begins to uneducate her about the belief in love or compassion, among other human virtues. My daughter, remember that those virtues are only weaknesses of the human being, and don't believe in that love or compassion stuff. It's only for clowns or fools. It doesn't exist. Instead, you are a queen, the popess, a goddess on earth because you are part of the chosen people of God, and you have complete authority on this earth. Think that we have over 2,000 years of supreme control, and no one can overthrow us. We are invisible. Moreover, we apply divine law through our holy book. The father teaches the opposite of what he preaches to his popess. I already knew it, father. Since I was a novice in the abbey in Switzerland, I understood it quickly. She responds to her father with an air of greatness. Very well, my daughter. Look at our lineage. We have been here for thousands of years, and we decide the fate of this land because we give eternal life and the pains of payment to every human being. The father convinces Nicole after seeing her weaknesses and desires. Yes, I am, father. I am the Ave Queen of this old religion, the popess, she confirms to her father. And what do you desire, my daughter? A stupid question, since the father knew what she desired, because the demon living in that institution had whispered to him what his daughter Nicole wanted, because this demon can hear and listen to everything, even what you write. Only thoughts were limited terrain for this demon, because it is a power of very high frequency that he has not been able to control until now. I want to have all the pleasures of this world, and I don't want to work as a domestic woman. I also don't want any responsibility for breastfeeding or taking care of a baby, and I won't be a submissive woman or equal to any man. I just want to be respected, and no one can touch me. Nicole deliriously responds to her father because she is already consumed by the desire for that eternal power that nobody can control. But there are still people who think they are capable, and that's where everything explodes. No problem, my daughter. The only thing you have to do is to create your own kingdom parallel to mine and never fall in love. But don't worry, I will be by your side from a distance, and you will have the best services at your feet, because you are already a queen over these stupid beasts that think only with their penis. But very important, my daughter, Always remember to show yourself humble, simple, and weak. Never forget it, warns the father to Nicole to prevent her from being recognized. All right, father. I have never believed in those fables of girls, and since that day I woke up in blood at a young age, I don't want to know about men. She answers father in a cynical and sinister way, because she still remembers that horrendous moment that her father took her to live at a very young age. I'm sorry, my daughter, but it was necessary to make you wake up from the fable of love. But you can call me Dad. The father justifies himself to her for what he did. I can't call you Dad because I don't feel like calling you that. For me, you are just a patriarchal symbol. You are my father, and I respect you for who you are. She answers without any emotion of affection towards her father, after the abominable situation she experienced at only 9 years of age. My daughter, look what a beautiful and quiet place. We already have your new house ready. Look in that building. There are many are your servants, and you will live in the same highness of my window, where I approach my workers and sycophants. This is the planimetry. It is a hidden representation of our monumental institution, or plaza, and the street is a closed via della conciliazione that protects us from any attack. The father changes the conversation with the daughter because he does not want to argue with her about that horrendous event that occurred so many years ago and send the planimetry by chat. And can't we make that building bigger, father, especially my flat? Don't forget the sacrifices I have made for you and this old institution. What is the name of that street? She asks and reminds her father. It's called J. Balaguerstrasse, 41, in Lovenish Sud, but we can't make the flat bigger. Remember that you can't give to the eye, and humility and simplicity is essential for our mission. The father reminds her how she has to move in the midst of the immortals that surround her in Cologne. And why do I have to move and live there? I don't want to live in Lovenish Sud when I love living in Switzerland so much, with my non-Swiss guards who treat me marvelously in the middle of the mountains. She does not want to go and live in that area, even less in Germany, because she likes only the good life, and unfortunately, she is particularly lazy. How much fiacca, bago, lazy. You are my daughter. You can walk a little to get to the park. It's good for you, the father suggests to Nicole. Bust, Meg. Fuck you. What I must do is enough. Lovenich Nord is better, since I'm tired of being down, always in the woodsment, always in hell. Nicole aggressively reiterates to the father. No, Nicole. It's better there, believe me. Because there will come one who says he believes in love and compassion outside of religions, so your job is to trick him into a better life before he makes us disappear. In fact, this man is colored. You know, the same fairy tales of Jesus and Magdalene. But be careful, my daughter, because the Hebrew people is waiting for a warrior, and not just one of word. So don't forget the mission of your non-Swiss guards, because they are the external part of the Order of the New Templars, says the father warns Nicole very seriously. But a colored one, a Negro. Another time. Fuck, father, no. I have to sleep with one more nigger. But you know I don't like these niggers. No, 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 no. Don't ask me, father. I've already made too many sacrifices for all of you. Besides, I am a blonde queen with green eyes, and already with these blacks that I have as non-Swiss guards is enough because they have drilled me with the reinforced concrete, and every time I have to put vaginal lotions for days to recover from so much passion. And I can't hide my hatred for these black monkeys either. That's why I have to drug myself with double dose of alprazolam drops. Nicole refuses to have to sleep with another Latino, Indian, black man after forming her colony and reigning parallel to her father. My daughter, remember that what you hate, you must destroy, and for that you must keep it close to you, Nicole's father says to her. That's why, after creating her non-Swiss Guard colony, she was transferred to that apartment in 2012 to rule alongside her father, who grants her the temporal and celestial power of a queen harlot and a celestial king on earth. Obviously, At the beginning of this relationship with Nicole, everything seems perfect to Enrique, but only at the beginning. She invests a lot of time watching him, studying him, and waiting for him with her widow's spider webs that absorb his virile power in every sexual act until she cuts off his head to nourish her offspring. However, Enrique is unable to have a deep conversation with her because he senses her lack of sincerity in this relationship. Nicole compensates for this deficiency with the technique of love bombs, explosive like nuclear blasts, extreme leverage at 100x to entangle him in her claws. At first, she becomes everything he has always desired in his life, due to her rapid and perfect mirroring, distancing any external contact. But is this the same technique she has used with hundreds of other men to ultimately crush and bury them alive under the sea? Because she is a mermaid with a very rare blood type, Rh negative, that is, the negative rerum or rhesus factor that attracts catastrophe to the entire globe. Not forgetting that she feels like an amphibian or seahorse that, after being enchanted, feels physically, psychologically, and spiritually hermaphroditic, but only in her mind. What a cruel game it is, always trying to sabotage the opposite sex or those with a different skin color, hair, or eyes. Basically, just because of differences, and not embracing the acceptance that these differences complement each other to become stronger and create a better order in this global chaos. And this would be Saskia. After Nicole has him in her clutches, hooked on her love fantasies, the shift begins to the other side of the circle, the cycle. The dark side, shadow, starts with gaslighting and the erosion of Enrique's self-esteem, attacking him consistently, highlighting imperfections, and denying every proof of error. In summary, she never apologizes. Nicole is simply perfect. She never makes mistakes, but others always do. Without any responsibility, because Nicole is a great actress who fills her red fuel tank to calm the hatred and depressive thoughts she harbors. That sense of inferiority, high envy, and above all, those intense jealousies. Enrique no longer believes in Nicole's words because they aren't genuine or real. She relies solely on superficial relationships. At the same time, he feels more alone. Not due to the pandemic or the lack of family, but rather because of the slow suffering in this toxic relationship that he must end. Experiencing the devaluation that Nicole offers him, as if Enrique were merely a supplier and not a flesh and blood person with emotions and feelings. As Jordan Peterson says, perhaps you are overvaluing what you don't have and undervaluing what you do have. When they began living together for almost 2 years, she showed him that she had control in that place. Nicole, we need to clean the external hallway of the apartment, Enrique reminds Nicole after reading the building's public notice about cleanliness. I don't do that, she responds to him with a slight smile, making it clear that she considers herself above those who live there. He closes an eye, but observes all the anomalies of the place, especially when he asks her to show him pictures of her family and childhood. She goes down to the basement and retrieves an old photo album. Look at my pictures when I was a child. She shows him the most unbelievable photographs ever, only of people who raised her and nothing more. Quote, everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is. Carl Gustav Jung. And what's this? Why in a cemetery? Enrique is impressed by an uncommon photo. I don't know. She feigns innocence and laughs lightly, looking at him like a simple sheep. In the photograph, Nicole is with her supposed grandmother and pseudo-sister, Tinako, next to a grave in an old cemetery. The astonishing thing is that everyone is laughing around this grave, and the girls carry a very cheerful white flower, as if to say implicitly, we will take you to the grave alive, my dear. What does this photo mean, Nicole? Enrique asks calmly, adding no further words about the picture. But he gazes at her with disapproval. I don't know what to tell you. It's a family tradition to take pictures at graves, she replies very naively, but with her slight, passive-aggressive smile. Because of this, he feels more abandoned in the midst of this relationship with her than when he is alone with himself. It's a continuous execution of uplifting Nicole's self-esteem issues, and for this, she needs a supplier who provides affection, warmth, and allows her to diminish or distance any relationship that is not more pleasing to her. The feelings of others don't matter. The more satisfied she is, the better, regardless of the price to be paid. How many people sacrifice to maintain the ego of one person, one entity? The depressive Ziesa that everyone around her, family and friends, knows how Nicole is, but they all fear her for her perverse power, akin to Rababahood. In other words, she steals human lives, power and money from poor souls to transfer it to her non-profit corporation, a small power group that roars louder and louder. That's why everyone around her fears her, afraid that her powerful political and diplomatic protectors from the European high society might launch a sinister attack, and consequently, those in her mentioned social circles turn a blind eye at the cost of so many innocents, mistreated, and traumatized people being led to death. But she is not stupid and has many economic resources to identify and note every weakness of Enrique, leading him into depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, confusion, total repression of his true self, until he covers himself with a mask to simulate being one of them. That is, for fear of not being accepted and criticized, he denied his authenticity as a human being to be accepted by them. Since his integration into the society of the sacred and profane in that Roman center, he had understood, accepted, and considered valid the wrong behavior of the political and religious leaders of that city. Chi predica bene e razzola male. Pretending to be a good citizen, Christian, and doing everything that the city offered to alleviate the sorrows of that life, full of falsehood and emptiness. That's why Enrique starts sabotaging himself with wrong behaviors, entering Mara's world, using drugs, engaging in sexual depravity, without a work or study ethic. Because in the end, dear reader, it is better to be the devil himself than a false good god with a makeup or feminist orientation, because they have not united both energies. Moreover, he believed in this love that turned out to be unreal. And as if all this weren't enough, he also wanted to hurt himself because of the great pain he was experiencing, completely traumatized by a maiden with a beautiful face and a splendid body, with a dark mind and soul. This led him to feel very negative emotions after realizing that it was just a dark and false fairy tale, covered in a mask of another false person. And he can never have an authentic connection with a covert narcissistic or a narcissistic in camouflage, because they will never admit their faults and errors due to the same lack of love that lives within them. But for this to be functional and effective, one must stay in the Shempa and have total doubt about the first question of every human being. Who are you? Who am I? I am what I am. In other words, that which you also are not. Anatta, anatman. Knowing yourself internally through external experiences that influence life in the self. Buddha already defines it in 5 aggregates, or khandhas, skandhas, that make up the building blocks of each reality we live. Through forms, appearance, color, texture, etc. Feelings, pleasure, pain, indifference, etc. Cognition, perceptions, ideas, thoughts, memories, mental formations, desires and aversions, and consciousness, knowing oneself. This gives life to the choreography of the 5 elements that invigorate yourself and give fluidity to distraction in time, and at the same time, you cannot control them, and they are impermanent, leading you to dukkha, dissatisfaction, suffering, to teach you the lesson of freedom from discontent. How? by eliminating the trivial, the distressed, and greedy ego of the self. This is me. This is mine. I am this.